All right. Yeah. Okay. I guess we are live. Uh, Andrew, can you kind of check on our? Can you guys see us? My screen.
Yes,
Everything's
you're
good.
live. You're live. You're ready to go.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening and good morning to all the folks attending this event from across the globe. Uh, what has it been so far? I'm pretty much sure there are like a lot of people here for lots and lots of hours, like almost like what 6, 7 hours. There's a lot of good content that's been coming out. Huge learning since the start of the event, and the best part is the event and the day is not over yet, right? So many things are yet to come, and there's a lot more learning to be seen there. So really appreciate you who have taken time so far to attend this session. Really appreciate your time. Email Benchmark 2020 is a session where we at Netco are presenting the data and insight from a recent report that we kind of launched, right? So here we start. My name is Balasubbhramaniyam, Ayyaswaami,
Yes.
Netco's product marketing team. Yeah, we good? Right. Okay. I'm from the Netco product marketing team, and along with me joins Tejas, who is the product marketer and email delivery expert, and the brain behind the report from Netco. Right, and the format of this session is pretty interesting. So Tejas and I would be kind of presenting the data for like about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll be joined by three VIP guests to talk more about the benchmark data what we have. Right. So let's kind of dive into it as soon as possible here. So email has become an essential channel for brands to communicate with their customers. We know that. Now, it's a direct link between the brand and the subscribers for promotion, sales, and company and product updates, which makes it even more important channel for marketing. And this global pandemic happened. And when this hit, organizations found themselves at a crossroad for how to best stretch their marketing budgets. While some organizations decided to reduce their email activity or pause their email programs, others invested on optimizing their emails to focus on customer retention and increase customer engagement and things like that. So we decided to do a survey during the pandemic lockdown, and nearly about 1,000 plus people kind of filled that particular survey, and we collected the results, calculated the matrix, gained insights into the engagement behavior of the email users during the period of intense nationwide lockdown and the emergence of a new social economic era, right? And what we did observe is a departure from a normal matrix for engagement to some new trends developing during the crisis. And here are some of the results what we kind of have. When asked, is email the preferred channel for brands to reach out to them, to all the folks? So 77% of the people said yes. And when kind of we asked, did they receive any irrelevant emails from brands during the quarantine period? Almost 28% said yes. And on another question, when we asked if they still see or check promotional emails anymore, again, during this particular quarantine times and during the lockdown period, 38% of the people said no. Now, these numbers were definitely different from normal. So we decided to kind of go deep and analyze this further. And we did an engagement study analyzing about 50 billion emails that is kind of sent across 6 months from April to September 2020. The emails were sent from using Netco's deliverability platform to their top consumer brands to millions of subscribers globally. And we kind of created a report that provides the insights on emails sent around the world during the pandemic lockdown period, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, Netco presents the Email Benchmark Report 2020, a study of 50 billion emails. And in this session, we talk about the important insights, metrics, and benchmark, right, of what we can actually cover. And it's a huge report. So you can actually download it. You can go to Netco's booth and you can find this report. You can download it for free. You will also find the link of the, where you can download in the chat in a few minutes, and you can actually use that, you can download it. But what we're going to cover in this is the most important part where it kind of affects the deliverability. What are the things that we saw, and what are the real factors that's been affecting, and what are the new benchmark that has been set, right? So let's kind of quickly dive into it. Like I said, it's about 50 billion emails, 6 months period on 15 major industries and 5 regions we kind of covered. Let me kind of take you through. So first thing what we did is we kind of looked into the global email volume that has been sent across. So obviously we kind of see that Gmail is on the top, about 72% from Gmail, followed by Yahoo at 15% and Outlook at 8%. We pretty much know this factor. We said we need to kind of go in depth. So let's look into the global email placement. And that's why we saw, again, Gmail at about 95%, Yahoo at 92%, Outlook at about 60%. Now, okay, now we are trying to get a pattern over here, but we wanted to kind of get more and more data about it. So we said, okay, what if we kind of divide it entirely into the regions, various regions? So we kind of divide it into US, Europe, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, because again, like I said, top brands from Netco that has been sent. Again, we are talking about millions and billions of emails over here. So when we start looking into it, very interesting pattern. Africa, please, for all the scammers, have 97% deliverability rate. Okay, followed by Southeast Asia, India, then comes Europe and US. We said, okay, now we need to find out why Africa and India is kind of good, or Southeast Asia is good, and why is US and Europe not good. Then we want to kind of deep dive furthermore. So we said, okay, now that we have by region, we know by the email providers, let's kind of go and divide it furthermore by various verticals of industries. So that's why we have all this particular 15 different verticals we kind of took from bank, beauty, deals, e-commerce, till travel, and we wanted to go and see in depth about it. And when we looked into the industry-wise deliverability rate, again, another interesting pattern. Travel industry, almost like a dead during that particular time, had about 95. Banking at 97, and media and publishing, you can actually see about 88%. So industry by industry, there was a huge difference. And we said that maybe there is something more we need to kind of figure out, and let's kind of dive in deep for it. So here's where the most important part comes. This is like the data from top, but when you kind of actually go inside and see, there's a different pattern altogether emerges. And to talk about those particular emerges, Tejas, you can actually take up the stage and you can talk about those interesting insights on the benchmark here.
Right. So, hello everyone. Let's dive in. So, the first thing that we noticed was that there was a considerable uplift in deliverability across the regions as well as engagement. I mean, despite the pandemic, we thought that the email readership had actually gone up. So, when we investigated this data further, we realized that most of the top email senders were using AI/ML technologies from our platform in order to engage with their customers. And that's where we realized that AI/ML is actually getting to be in the mainstream for email marketing activities. And today we had like Alice Connell, who said that we want to increasingly use AI for our website analytics, for our data analytics. And I totally agree. That's what marketers are getting into. I mean, this is the paradigm shift that is happening now in email marketing. And it's just not Netcore. I think other ESPs also started to use this AI/ML tools for better inboxing, better segmentation, predictive churn, 100% email delivery and stuff like that. So what the main thing that we saw was that there was a 35 to 50% increase in engagement, as in opens and clicks, which was a massive boost for all our consumers and who are trying to receive, and for the brands who are trying to get so much more eyeballs to their emails from their customers. And that's a massive boost for any brand in order to, get that added attention in a time like the pandemic. And we saw that the retail sector was doing really well. And that was because most of the retail sector had to pivot their business strategy and kind of try to go online when the intense lockdown started. For example, Zara, which is a famous brand in Europe, and they shut down a lot of the physical stores, from 300 to 400 stores. And they decided to migrate everything to their online sale. And they did really well in terms of their online revenue. So that was a pivot that retail sector is looking at. Another example will be from India, where Big Bazaar is such a huge supermarket franchise. There was a brick and mortar store, and now they've gone online during the lockdown period. And that has helped them to serve much more customers than they did before. So these were certain pivots that these brands had started to use. We also saw increase, of course, an uplift in inboxing, because engagement and inboxing are like a positive cycle that keeps on happening. So we thought that the mailbox providers are rewarding subscriber engagement, uh, and that is leading to a better inboxing across the board. So that was the analysis that we got from AIML into this report. And there's so much more in the report that you can read about AIML. But let's go now to the next part. And the next part we saw was that now the brand started increasing their volumes gradually, right? Because the lockdown was like a very abrupt event across the world, and most of the marketeers were trying to trash the email programs that they had planned for the entire year, because they had to pivot to another strategy. And so most of them went through a lot of budget cuts. So there was a lot of a reduction in volumes at the very start, the first 3 months of the lockdowns. And that's where we saw that the brands were reducing the volume, yes, but they were trying to use better segmentation strategies in order to target those users which they think are definitely going to read the emails. So they were segmenting the audience based on their interests, their preferences, even their geolocations. And they were just trying to target users who they thought were the best, engaging segments, and they wanted to retain those users. There was a lot of focus on customer retention at the start. Like you saw the beauty sector, which received like 7.5 times more engagement than before, because they stopped selling the cosmetics and probably started selling more masks and sanitizers. The retail sector grew by 4 times. I already told you that most of them navigated online, and that was a direct result of that. Uh, we saw travel sector show a decline, but that was obvious. I mean, the airlines had shut down, and world travel was just paused. It's still pretty much paused. And but I would like to say that the travel marketeers did a really good job during the lockdown in order to engage their audiences with innovative content. So we had like offers to take a virtual tour in museums across countries. You can sit in home and take a tour of the Louvre, or you know uh, create your own bucket list of places to visit once this whole thing is over. So I think they were always trying to engage the audiences a lot more. So they did not see that much of a decline as we expected it to. The media and publishing brand is, I mean, those brands, I just saw that the best campaigns got more than 70%, as you can see, of open rates. And that was because I think once the pandemic hit, there was a deluge of information out there. I mean, across media, and everyone just wanted to know what is going on around in their local areas, what is going on in a global scale. And at least even with my place, there were no newspapers for almost a month. They were not getting delivered. So, this was a major area where I think the users were able to engage more with media newsletters. And of course, most of the media publishing brands send out the newsletters in regional languages in India and Southeast Asia. And so they got more engagement out of it, is my opinion. The click to open rates also went up along with the engagement. So it was the quality of the content that was being sent out, which actually made the users engage even more. And we saw most of the brands pivot their strategies to start, catering to the audience in terms of the essential goods and services, rather than any luxury items that they had. I mean, they were just not interested in pitching them anymore. There were still some brands who did that mistake, and they paid for it. So going ahead to the next section that we have, we saw that uh, we wanted to investigate. Okay, fine, we see engagement in boxing, but what about churn? Like, how many users are actually unsubscribing, from these brand emails? And that's where we realized that, I mean, since the lockdown period started, especially the entertainment sector, a lot of options just opened up for users. I mean, right now, if I want to stream a movie, I got 4 to 5 platforms which are vying for my attention. So, there was just a lot of choice given to the users. Even with retail, it was just not one brand which was trying to sell you their grocery anymore. It was like a variety of brands who were trying to do the same thing. So users had choice. And when it comes to choice, if you don't get the best deal somewhere, you're going to move on to the next one. And I think that's what generally happened with these two sectors that we see. Now, the information on the other sectors is also there. If you can download the report and you can check your own industry from where you're from. But that's what we generally saw with retail and entertainment. When you went to mobile and telecom, why did they have the lowest churn? Well, I think that's because mobile telecom companies generally have regulatory policies. Everyone's individualized mobile plans. They're different, and you can't just really just patch and blast one offer to everyone. I generally don't see that happening. So I think they were very selective with their campaigns and their audience, and that really worked in their favor. That people didn't really unsubscribe from them because I think communication had become so much important during the whole lockdown period. It still is. Uh, Also, I think there was a lot of stress by brands, at least with the customer success consultants that came in with the opinion. Brands are just trying to send more personalized content, and they're trying to make their content tailor made to those segments so that it will resonate more with the audience. It will be a very meaningful content to the customers, and not just one offer that you're just sending every day. I mean, that just didn't work, and I think brands were very successful in doing that. Uh, Obviously, I mean, people are focusing more on essential goods rather than, selling you those new pair of sneakers and jeans, which I don't know where you're going to wear during a lockdown because you're stuck at home. Some brands still do that, but never works. The more brands focused on essential, the more the engagement went up, the more their email deliverability went up, the lesser was the churn. Uh, we received an average bounce rate across all industries of around 1.2%. Now, this includes soft bounces as well as hard bounces. Now, if you have hard bounces, you're getting regular hard bounces, which are like 1% or 2% on your every campaign. That will affect your email deliverability. So that's something to keep in mind, that these numbers are still a bit, average. I'll say they're not that harmful to your email program, but on a regular basis, you should not be going above these numbers for your hard bounces because that will really hurt you in the long term. The next part, and probably my favorite part, was the metric that stood out for me more was the use of video in email and the use of GIFs in your email campaigns. Now, how many industries really attempted that? If you look at it, video and email is not supported by all mailbox providers. I mean, Gmail, Outlook don't even support it. So all you're going to get is a static image if you want to send a video and email to your customers. But banking sector over here did really well with all their video campaigns. Now, uh, of course, with the pandemic happening, people's attention was more towards the economic scenario about savings because a lot of layoffs and stuff were happening, and some were even taking COVID insurance. So banks and insurance companies were trying to send engaging content to the customers to try to increase the acquisition. And this was the part where we saw one brand, a very popular brand, which decided to, send a video in their email, which was talking about getting a know your customer procedure done from your new customer trying to set up their bank account. And it supposedly is a very complex process, but they made it very steps in that video, and that campaign did really well. I think overall, if you look, banking sector has done really well with an increase in click rates as well. The retail sector has also seen an increase, like staggering, almost double the engagement as before. But I think with video and email and GIFs, it definitely works. If it is really interactive, if you're trying to simplify your content to your audience, it will work. But the thing is, don't overdo it. Keep your content very relevant to your campaign that you're trying to send, and choose which audience is going to get that campaign, because not everyone is going to have mailbox providers which are going to allow you to see that video and email. So those were some of the insights that really stood out for us in this report. There's so much more in this report that you can check, though.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Tejas. Like, there is still a lot more to kind of discuss. But I said 15, 20 minutes, we need to kind of squeeze that and put it. Well, that's the best we could do. But like I said, pretty much you can see the ticker running to kind of download the report. So go ahead and grab your copy and do let us know what you kind of think. And there's a new benchmark and all together in that. So let's kind of have our guests today. We have 3 VIP guests joining in today to talk about it. We have Ryan joining in, Chris, and Jeanne. All 3 are joining in. Right, we have Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Hey, very, very good morning. And we also have Jeanne, Chris. Very good morning, guys. Thanks for joining today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to be here.
Yes, thanks for inviting me.
Very good. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. We all know you. I mean, of course, you guys are email veterans. Anybody in the email business, everybody knows you, right? But for the sake of for the audience, let's kind of have a quick introduction. Why don't we start with Jeanne?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeanne Jennings. I'm an email marketing consultant. I have my own boutique consultancy, email optimization shop, focused on strategy and testing. And I'm also general manager of Only Influencers, the original community of email industry professionals. And I'm also programming chair of the Email Innovation Summit, which happens every summer here in Las Vegas. Well, not here in Las Vegas, here in the States. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Jeanne. Chris?
Okay. Hi, I'm Chris Marriott. I'm president of a small company called Email Connect. And our primary business is helping connect, as our name suggests, leading brands with the right ESP vendor or MarTech vendor. So we work with brands and help them, again, in the vendor selection process. As a result, I think we probably have greater insight into the vendor landscape than almost anybody else in the industry. We have to really know, have pretty good in-depth knowledge about all of the mid-market and enterprise platforms. And that's what we do. And again, also delighted to be here with Netcore and with everyone. Great group of people.
Thank you very much, Chris. You're Ryan. Ryan, I think we have to do an audio check. We can't hear you.
It helps if I unmute. The great mystery of 2020 is where's the frickin' mute button? If I had $1. Anyway, hi, I'm Ryan, co-founder of Origin Email. Been in the industry for going on 22 years as a strategist and marketing professional. Much like Jeanne, we work with a lot of large companies to help them with their email marketing and digital marketing efforts. I'm the past chairman of the EEC Email Experience Council. I've got articles everywhere, just like everybody else on the panel. I'm just like, I'm probably the lowest tier with everybody here because there's greatness in the room. So it's wonderful to be with everybody here, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ryan. Tejas, you want to kind of take up on the panel to kind of begin with?
Yeah, so my first question to all of you is that, I mean, you guys have gone through the report and you gave some really great glowing reviews for that. Thanks for that. But what was that one metric for each one of you that really stood out for you from this report? I mean, we can start with Jeanne over here and we can go then to Chris and Ryan.
Wow. So it was a great report. First of all, thank you. It was great to read it. I love benchmark reports like this. I think they're undervalued. I think a lot of people are like, oh, who cares about that? And I'm like, no, this shows you what's possible. So thank you. It was a great report. The one that stood out for me, and you're going to laugh because it's a bit of a contrarian reason, was the best day to send email, which from someone who's been in this industry a while is one of our least favorite questions that we get asked when we're up on stage. I think Ryan and Chris would agree. But here's why I liked it and why it stood out to me. I don't think there's any one right answer. And in fact, the report said that Friday was the best day. And what was really funny to me about that is we just went through day of send testing with one of my clients. And for reasons, we compared Friday to Tuesday and Thursday. We were trying to pick a third day. We already knew Monday and Wednesday were good. Thursday beat Friday by 327% in revenue per email. So here's the reason that stood out to me. First of all, I thought it was funny because it completely disagreed with what I just found testing with my client. But the reason I like it, and I think it's important, is it's a good reminder to people not to just go by what the report says, but to actually test it for yourself, because that can make a huge difference, not only in your opens and clicks, but in your bottom line revenue. So I think it's a good, I don't doubt the data at all, but I think it's just a good reminder to people. This is something to check with your own list. And I think it's something people overlook, and it's very important.
I'm going to talk about something else, but what I would say, just to riff off of Jeanne a little bit, is I think it's also dependent on your vertical. I mean, when you lump in millions and billions of emails like you did, the differences between verticals get sort of obliterated, and clearly most email marketers, based on your report, Friday is a great day, but that doesn't mean, to Jeanne's point, that applies to you. And the other thing is, if everybody takes that to heart and mails on Friday, Friday is going to suddenly become the worst day. And I'm not the first one to have said that. But what I would say, the thing that I was most interested in was the increase in AI ML, the increase in results from that, and the 100% increase in STO. Because what that tells me is, email marketers and vendors have been talking the talk a long time about the value of AI and how we're going to, start rolling out AI, and we're going to do all of this stuff, but they haven't been doing it. What you're, again, people say what everybody wants to hear, but that doesn't mean they're doing it. And I think what your report showed is that really people are, at least with your platform, beginning to walk the walk and actually deploy those and get results out of that. And I think that's fascinating. I mean, we talked on Jeanne's program about AI only influencers a few weeks ago, and I'm kind of a skeptic, and I don't want to derail this conversation. I'm kind of a skeptic about relying too much on AI, but when I see numbers like that, I have to reevaluate my own skepticism and say, you know what, it's proven some great results.
Yeah,
I think, and it's about trying to further the conversation, right? I mean, we are talking about AI ML now for the past 2 or 3 years, and it's finally we have to show some results, and this conversation needs to go somewhere. Either AI ML is really doing great stuff, or it's probably not working. So what we have found out is that it's probably working for the brands that are using it right now to the right advantage.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think one of the things that COVID in 2020 has taught us is a lot of new things got tested, and marketers got pushed into a lot of things they were hesitant to do because they had nothing else. And everybody kind of scrambled in the beginning stages going, oh my God, the world is falling, the sky is falling, what are we going to do? And I think a lot of successful marketers did accelerate that move into using artificial intelligence and machine learning and modeling, and across the board, I think what we've seen is an increase in sophistication. When it comes to report, the other thing I would say about Jeanne's, see, the neat thing about being last is I can comment on their stuff. So the funny thing I always remember when people talk about the best day of the week to do is I remember back to Chad White used to put out the state of email marketing like every month. And he would always look at what the best day of the week was. And it'd be like, Wednesday is the best day. And everybody would rush out and start emailing on Wednesday. And then next month it would be Thursday is the best day. And everybody would rush out and do Thursday. And Jeanne was absolutely right, is that just because you hear that that's the best day doesn't make it so. I have found personally in B2B, Saturdays are amazing to email. But regardless, I think the stat that got me was the last stat you guys had up before you cut to us, which was the animated GIFs by the financial services and insurance, and seeing all that increase. And I just think of, well, it's because those emails are so super boring anyway. Anything in there would increase engagement. Thank God they did something, right? And I think you were good in Tejas, by putting this at the end, is don't overuse it. It is what I call an occasional use technology. That if you use it all the time, then it becomes standard and the effectiveness of it fades out. If you use it every once in a while, then you do get that pop, right? But you get the same kind. It's the art of something new.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm pretty much sure now people are going to try the Saturdays, and all the marketers are going to try
I'm sorry for everybody to get B2B emails.
Right. Okay. Now, those are the numbers from the benchmark. Now, let's kind of understand from you guys. Now, if I have to understand, like, say, 2 changes that you have seen in engagement matrix during the lockdown period, what would those be? It need not be from the benchmark report, actually, but what's that you have experienced? We can start with Jeanne. Yeah.
All right. Well, one thing I've seen across the board with my clients is an increase in frequency. And this isn't necessarily a good thing, because what I've seen as a result of that are lower open rates, lower click-through rates, and most importantly, lower revenue per email rates, which is really, for most of my clients, we're trying to generate revenue with email. So that's where the rubber meets the road. So honestly, what I've seen is, when the pandemic started and they increased the frequency, all those numbers went up. They got very excited about email. They kept on, pounding their list. And then we started to see the decline. And so with most of my clients now, we're actually at the point of trying to turn that around, trying to fix it. And I think that, it's great that all of a sudden people are really on to email marketing and they're doing more of it. But when they don't do it in a smart way, you're eroding your list. So I think that's what I've seen is decreases in those key metrics that we now need to work on and try to be smarter to fix it.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Chris?
Well, I'll let Ryan go last again, so he can riff off everyone else. We could argue an entire session and an entire conference about what are the right engagement metrics that people should be tracking. My thought is this: that whatever your engagement metrics are, whatever you're tracking, the key metric is how much of your list, by your definition of engaged, is engaged. And that's the critical thing, because I don't care what you're tracking, if only 30% of the people are meeting that engagement threshold, your list is not in great shape. If 60% are, it's in great shape. Again, and I don't mean, so let's just take any old metric, but again, it's really how much of your list can you say, based on your company's engagement metrics, is engaged. We can argue all day that opens don't matter because opens are not captured on so many devices. We can, all of these though are, and Jeanne touched on it. Whatever the metrics are, if you're selling something, if you're using email to generate revenue, use whatever proxy you want that's going to indicate your revenue is going to go up. If your open rate goes up and your revenue goes up, track open rate. If your click rate goes up and your revenue tends to go up, now there's a great proxy. So it's really start with what are things that tend to indicate you're going to have the desired result ultimately. And and again, if you're a publisher, all you really want is again, how many people are going from the newsletter to the website? That it's a very, very simple, in my mind, a very simple metric, because what are you trying to do? You're trying to drive eyeballs, drive up advertising revenue at whatever site that content resides at.
Yeah. I think for me, what I saw is the companies that were agile, step back, look at their own kind of their brand equity, their authenticity. Those really did meet the moment. I think what I saw from some of the people I've checked in with saw their engagement rates go up because they met the moment. They were they had context to the communication. They weren't just hawking stuff, right? They actually met the moment. And so what I saw from marketers that did that is their engagement rates go up. The second thing I saw was inactive populations actually activated, because you were home, you were trapped, you were going through your inbox, and you were going back to what do I need to do and what are some of the people or companies I'm opted into. So I did see in some clients their reactivation rates change, or their inactive segments change. And I would agree with Jeanne and with Chris is that, especially Jeanne, the people that just thought, well, I'll send more and try and make up for it, kind of take that holiday marketing and tactic, right? I increase my volume by 20 or 30% during the holiday period, and that's how I make my money. They almost said, well, I'm gonna back in March, I'm just gonna email more, and that really didn't. We've said for years, right? Always watch how much you're emailing, look at how much, what your governance is, because if you don't, it'll burn out your list. And I think there were a lot of retailers, a lot of marketers who actually saw the front lines of what a burnout list looks like.
Absolutely.
Since we are in the Deliverability Summit, I thought I'll speak about your
Oh,
email programs.
Oh, there he is.
you vanished for a second. Keep going.
Oh, did I? I just thought I'll speak about deliverability with you guys, and I just thought that how was the deliverability for you guys with your email programs, with the brands that you manage? I mean, was it a smooth ride, or was it kind of on and off throughout these 6 months? Like, how was your experiences?
Maybe we can start with Ryan this time again.
Oh man,
Good idea.
I actually didn't see any problems. Of the clients that I worked with, I didn't see any issues, but I think that that may have been biased just because they were doing responsible things. They were thinking of, they already had segmentation. They already had kind of this step back, the things I was talking about in the prior segment. I really didn't have any of my clients or read a lot about deliverability going to, going bad. And I don't know if Jeanne or Chris saw that, but I think if you're a responsible email marketer and you kind of thought about it, you didn't get over your skis. Now I think now I'd be interested what everybody else thinks on this one.
But Ryan, I got a quick question here. You did mention that people were inactive, were kind of active right now, and did you kind of see any kind of change in deliverability because of that? Because now a lot of inactive folks are actually getting activated now. Many people going from one list to the other side of it. So did that kind of affect that?
No, I didn't see any negative to that. A lot of I will say all of the clients that I work with do have thresholds built in to not email past a certain date so they don't get into deliverability problems, right? And it's different because I work with different verticals, but I didn't see any deliverability problems with somebody from going from inactive to active. It just means that they were in that short-term window where they were probably getting a win-back program or something like that, right?
Right.
What do you do?
Chris?
Well, I don't work like Ryan and Jeanne with clients in terms of email program strategy. But I have worked and I do work and I'm working with clients outside of the RFP realm in terms of email subscriber acquisition. And my experience there is, and I'll keep it short and sweet. If you're putting, if you're putting people on your list that you don't know for certain want to be there, it's only a question of time before your deliverability is going to go south. And more than anything else, more than emailing to inactives, because I can make the argument that, and I had a client that demonstrated the argument that when they cut their inactives out of an email campaign, their revenue dropped 20%. So they never know which one of those inactives is going to become active at any given time. So that's a scary balance in my mind, and something that I think Jeanne and Ryan have probably worked a lot with their clients on. But again, from a deliverability standpoint, if you during the pandemic, if you didn't just run around and try to build up your list because suddenly email was more important than ever, as long as you continue to only put people on your list that you knew wanted to be there, meaning they actually signed up, knew what they were signing up for. As long as you did that, your deliverability was, was going to be pretty okay. Was going to be okay.
So that's proper subscriber permissions which were required.
Yeah.
Those who did it did well. All right. Over to you, Jeanne. What do you think?
Yeah, so just to really agree with what the gentleman before me have said, my clients, knock on wood, as far as we know, no deliverability issues, which was great. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned this and bring this up, though, because I had a call earlier this week with a potential client, someone I've given a proposal to, and one of their issues is they're currently working with someone, helping them with their email marketing strategy. And during the pandemic, their list of deliverable names has dropped from 850,000 to 250,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the guy's like, well, it's a pandemic. And I was like, I think there might be something else going on here. And they're not using an ESP that any of us has ever heard of, I guarantee. And so we'll see. I think that it really does go back to what Chris and Ryan said. It goes back to best practices on the sign up. It goes back to working with, trusted vendors in the industry. And it goes back to being smart about your email. But I can't stress enough. I mean, there are people who have deliverability issues, even though they've done everything right on the front end, getting people in, that they're few and far between. Most of the time when there's a deliverability issue, it's either that you've been a bad actor at the beginning, or you're on a shared IP address and you're sharing that IP with someone who's a bad actor. I can't stress enough that the law is not enough. If you're in compliance with the law in the United States, that's not enough to get you good deliverability. You need to follow the standards and best practices of the industry.
No, I just want to jump on that because I think Jeanne made a great point, and it's important for the email marketers watching to internalize, which is if you're working with a reputable ESP and your deliverability numbers are dropping, it's not 99.999% of the time. It's not the fault of your ESP. You've got to look in-house and see what you're doing wrong. Because if you blame your ESP, nothing's going to get fixed.
Yeah, it was funny. I have had that conversation so many times in my career. It's crazy. But I want to jump on what one thing that Jeanne said when we talk, and I know Jeanne does with her clients, when we talk to our clients about deliverability and about compliance, right? And I actually, just before we jumped on this program, I'm writing out a position paper for one of my clients on legislation across the world that would affect them and their practices. And I use this graphic that I've used before that said canned spam, as an example, is the bottom rung of any compliance regime that you want to think about. Above that is the AUPs from the ESP, the blacklist providers, the global legislation, the ISPs. There's so many things above canned spam that saying just because it's legal I can do it is doomed to fail.
Yeah.
And it's because this industry, for the most part, is self-governed because of the infrastructure, the layers that exist. So I think that most of the clients, all of the clients that we work with, are in that recognition of what compliance looks like beyond just adhering to canned spam, right?
That's an interesting point. Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of talk about now that we have seen what a benchmark has been set. What is 2020 is all about? 2021 is definitely going to be exciting, and we all hope it is. So if that is the case, let's kind of say, if we have to give a tip to the marketer, what would be your advice to a marketer who's trying to reduce the user churn there? Because one of the prediction is that there could be a higher churn because some of the inactive guys have activated. Some are going to go to the list the other side of it. But if you have to kind of give an advice to the marketer who's trying to reduce their churn in 2021, what would that be? Let's start with Chris this time.
Great. What I thought was fascinating was in your report was that the highest churn was retail and entertainment. And at first I thought that makes, I couldn't square that with how important they had become as channels to people in the pandemic. But then it hit me, well, that's exactly why they were under the spotlight. And if they did not deliver the right products choices or the right entertainment choices, an alternative was a click away. So, once I thought about that, it made total sense to me that you would see higher churn rates there. And it means that retailers and entertainment companies have to, particularly retailers, I think, have to, because entertainment companies, their entertainment is their entertainment. Switching that quickly is not necessarily easy. But for retailers, what I think, my advice to retailers, particularly in this high churn environment, is think like a concierge. I think that I think that the retailers that have had the most impact, at least with me, are those that again, when you feel like you're interacting with the concierge at a hotel, who knows what you might want, who cares about every interaction with you, is checking back to make sure that you got what you needed, and has ideas for other things, we've said all of these things in other venues and said, oh, you got to be relevant, you got to be You got to expect, be customer centric, blah 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 blah. But if you wrap that all up and say, act like you, as a brand, act like you're a concierge at a hotel, and every one of the people you're emailing is a guest. I think if you enter with that mentality and use that mentality to drive everything you do, I think you'll see less churn. I think you'll see greater revenue, and I think you'll see more engaged subscribers. So 2021 is the year of the email concierge. I've declared it, the year of the email concierge.
There you go. Yeah, we got that.
The tweet of these days.
Right. Absolutely. Jeanne, what are your viewpoints here?
I think my big overarching advice, which is probably the same advice I would have given for 2020 and 2019, is just to provide value. And I know that we keep saying that, but I see so many folks who are marketing and they're not really doing that. And I have another client that came to me looking for some advice, and they were sending their list. And what I found was the initial sends of emails to their list was generating greater than a 1% unsubscribe rate, which is too high. And then they were doing full file resends on those emails. You're going to love this. On the resends, their unsubscribe rate was higher than their click-through rate. So every time they resent to the list, more people would unsubscribe than would actually click. So there's things like that. And I just, the minute I looked at it, and I was like, so you definitely have to stop doing the resends because you're killing yourself. And you need to find out how to provide value. And I think that involves putting yourself in the shoes of people that are getting your emails. I think Cap Pay did a great article for OI a week or two ago about customer-centric focus. And that's what a lot of email marketers still aren't thinking about. They think about, what do I want to send to that person? What products do I want to do? Rather than, what does that person really want?
Absolutely. Pandemic, no pandemic, don't go away from value. That's got to be there. Right.
Yeah.
Ryan?
I think 2021 is going to be the year of churn.
Contrary.
That's another thing.
I know. Coming to a webinar near you, Ryan and Chris go head to head in a cage match. I think so. Here's what we know of 2020. Besides the obvious, is that everybody's channel propensity and preferences changed. Not only in how they consume information, but how they shop, how they experience a brand, how they do everything, right? Prior to the pandemic, I went to the store religiously, 2 stores every week to get my groceries. I haven't been inside of a store since May 15th, right? I've had Instacart, I've used delivery services, I've picked up. Now, how does that translate when all this is done? What behaviors do I keep? What ones do I like now? And we've gotten accustomed in our models and our segmentation to say this person is an in-store shopper, this person is an online shopper. It is mixed up right now, and I think if companies don't adapt to that change and adapt to how consumers have changed, they're going to lose people because they're not going to speak to them. Back to Jeanne's point, and to Chris's, if you don't speak like you know who they are, they will go to somebody else that knows who they are, right? And so I think what we may see in 2021 is a year of churn where consumers feel more empowered to do new things that we haven't ever predicted, and some companies are not anticipating and reacting to in a quicker period of time.
So my follow-up question to that, Ryan, is that do you think that right now, I mean, every other brand is going for a digital touch point? They don't really want people to come in for physical shopping. Do you think that's going to return and people are probably going to shift more from online to offline?
I think
how long?
I think for the first 2 months, people are going to go anywhere they can, because just to be able to get out of the house, right? My wife wants to go get a manicure, a pedicure, go out to eat, go to a movie, and go to Nordstrom's, right? That's her list of priorities. But after that, then we settle into everyday life. We make up for the gap that we had, but then we settle in and we remember, oh, I used to order groceries from this store, and it was really easy, and I don't feel like going to the store right now because of these items. So I'm going to order and get it delivered, right? Now, do marketers start to take into account, and this is the thing we all have to start thinking about, is what actions or what behaviors prompt a change in what we knew to be true, right? So do I primarily only order delivery on food on Wednesdays? And can I predict that? Can I get a consistency out of that? Can I recognize it so that I market to them up front and go, hey, knowing it's Wednesday's coming, don't forget to get this kind of stuff, right? And so I think in the short term it does change it, but I think the long term people remember why they did what they did and what the benefit was. And I think it does change it.
I think we need to remember, or we need to take into account that there are certain types of shopping experiences that people enjoy, and they're going to come flying back. And it depends upon the individual. I enjoy going to the grocery store, so I still go. I don't know if that makes me a weird person enjoying grocery store, but I enjoy it.
Oh no, I do.
Okay, clothing shopping, perusing. Well, we don't like clothes, but some people like clothing shopping. And so, I think to Ryan's point, I think that this middle ground. Before the pandemic, we had to get everything on at the store pretty much. I mean, there were things we bought online, of course, but I totally agree with Ryan. Some things we've learned during the pandemic that we like better not getting at the store. I am never going to lug a 40-pound bag of dog food to my car and into my house again. So that's gone forever. And the store, where I get it from, fortunately, it's the same one online as in the store. So they haven't lost a customer in that. But so I think it's going to be a mix. And again, there's going to be the things we always bought online, going to still buy online. A lot of things we bought in the stores, we're going to go back and buy in the stores, but there is going to be a shift in that line. And email marketers need to know what their customers, if they shifted or not, to Ryan's point, that it is essential that you recognize, are your customers who were not buying online and started to buy line, what is the likelihood that they're going to go back? And how do you treat them differently if they are or they aren't?
Can I jump in with kind of, my thought on an overarching thing that companies should do that ties into exactly what you and Ryan just said, which I think is one of the most underused tactics that is out there right now: observed behavior. You guys are talking about, the way that people are going to know that is to be able to watch and see, they used to order their groceries online once a week. Which of my customers are still doing that? If they're not doing that, is there a way that I can find out if they're actually walking in my store every week? And just observing the behavior. One of the things we did with a holiday campaign that I did for one of my clients that was very, very successful is that we sent out a general, call it a category email. And it basically had 12 different product categories that they're selling and an image for each. And then we asked you to, just basically a regular email, click through. But then what we do with the data is where it gets interesting. Because what we did is we did resends based on what people clicked on in that email. So if you clicked on apparel, the next email you got from us was all apparel. If you clicked on drinkware, the next email you got from us was all drinkware. And we continued to send that category email. We continued to use the observed data based on clicks to send targeted emails. And what we found is that initial category email did very well. It was in the top quartiles of email we sent as far as generating revenue per email. But those relevant category emails that we followed up with were 3 and 4 and 5 times the revenue per email that we got on the initial send, because they were exactly what people were interested in. And we only send to people who clicked but didn't buy, which sounds really counterintuitive, but it's a way to control erosion on your list. And yet you can get dramatic increases in revenue per email when you do that. And you hardly ever see any unsubscribes because it's based on what they were interested in. So observed behavior, you can watch what they're clicking on the website. There's a million different types of observed behavior that we have access to as digital marketers very easily that we just overlook.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yep. Bingo.
Absolutely. Very good. I would want to continue. Andrew, how are we doing on the time? Did we overshoot or can we kind of continue? I know Jean's got a hard stop.
You're welcome to carry on. This is all great
All right.
stuff.
All right. Okay. So we kind of wrap with probably one last question over here. I know Jean has a hard stop, right? Maybe we could just have that particular introduction go. Can we? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm here all day.
Love to have you all day. Right. Let's kind of put it this way. Now, if marketers should do any kind of a something they have to do proactively in 2021 to know more about their customers, what should they kind of start doing? Like, we're in December, 2021 is starting. What activity would you suggest for a marketer to do something proactively? That's something what they missed out in 2020. Jean, let's start with you.
Well, I think the observed data would fall into that category for sure. But the other thing I would say is, you should be looking at, and this harkens back to something that one of the other gentlemen said earlier, is looking at who's actually engaging with your email and who's been dormant, who hasn't opened or clicked in a while. Now, I don't like to do these one-off, oh my gosh, let's figure out who hasn't, opened or clicked in the last year and send an email. This is the time. You should take the time after your Christmas campaigns end, when you have time, to put together an ongoing automated re-engagement campaign, so that basically it runs every week or every 2 weeks. It identifies anyone who hasn't clicked or opened in a short time frame. It's going to vary based on your product life cycle. But let's say a month or two, and it's going to automatically enroll them in this preset automated program geared toward pulling them back in by talking to them about the value of the email relationship, telling them about the things that they've missed. And then when they re-engage with that, that's when they get sent back into the normal cadence. But that's something that you should definitely do, set up, have it automated so that it just happens. That is one of the surest way to keep people on your list, to keep them engaged, and to help address your churn.
Very nice answer. Thank you. Yeah. Ryan, you want to?
Gosh. You know what? I would ask. Progressive profiling is underrated. I would say, come up with some emails that ask consumers what they think, how they're, just be authentic, for God's sakes. And then to Jean's point, then look and pair that against behavioral data. Because what we know is how people answer questions is how they want you to think about them sometimes. How they behave is how they're going to behave, right? So it is a balance between asking the question and verifying it on behaviors. But I would say look at different channels too. Direct mail has efficacy. Online advertising and targeting has efficacy. All these different things. Don't just rely on email to do your job. I mean, if we've learned anything is that in 2020 is that there's a lot more channels out there that people are engaged with now. And not everybody, email does not work for everybody, to quote David Baker.
True.
I'm up. Okay. What I would say, and Ryan will accuse me of being incredibly self-serving after I say this, but what I would also advise is to take a look at your MarTech stack going into 2021. A lot of people put off RFPs in 2020 for very good reasons. They extended with existing vendors. The idea of making a switch was too much. But the vendor landscape for ESPs, and then you lob in the CDPs, and Jeanne was nice enough to let me speak about that at the Email Innovation Summit and write about that. But I mean, there's a lot going on out there, and a lot of things trying to get your attention. And you need to look at again your programs, your platforms, and early on in the year decide: do I need to look around? Can I upgrade at the platform level? And so that would be my number one. If you put it off, don't put it off any longer. Too much is going on. There's so many great things out there right now that could take your program to new levels. Particularly if you've been with the same vendor for 5-6 years. The other thing I'll say, which isn't incredibly self-serving, is Also, establish an expectation. We all talk about sending lots of email and people are engaged or not engaged. If you're sending, just do a simple exercise. If you're sending 5 emails a week, ask yourself, how many do I realistically expect that person to open? What's success? If they open 1 out of the 5, if that's success. If they open 5 out of the 5, that's success, or somewhere in between. Because once you begin to think about that, I think you'll approach your whole email program a little differently. And again, a little bit more realistically, and not necessarily saying, if they don't open every email, I'm a failure. But again, what percentage do I want them to open? And ultimately, again, going back to what Jeanne was saying earlier, if they're opening none of them, but they're buying, I'm okay. The ISP is going to say, oh, they're not engaged, don't send it to them. But again, focus on what you really want, and that's revenue or eyeballs.
Jeanne.
Thanks, everybody. I need to run. I'm so sorry. I have another Zoom event to host. It's been crazy. Please, everyone, stay safe. Well, be happy. Be happy holidays. Bye.
Thank you very much.
So
We really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Jeanne.
Watching should also know about that Zoom call, because you should all be members of OI. So anyone who's not a member of Only Influencers, please
sign up.
onlyinfluencers.com, get yourself your membership. Jeanne was very, very kind to join this session when she had so much else on.
Yeah, she was.
And very appreciative of it. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Chris, I'm gonna agree with you. I thought you were very perceptive. It was a very self-serving comment. But you're honest about it. But I will agree. I actually do agree with the premise, right? Because what we did learn is where our platforms fell down, where our needs exceeded our current offering. And it is the right thing is that if you spent most of 2020 in a great deal of pain because of your platform, there are probably 2 reasons. One, you had to grow up in a substantial way. And 2, platforms weren't developed for a pandemic, right? And so be really honest of, am I pushing my platform beyond even reasonable expectation, or do I need to look at a new one? You said earlier, if you have deliverability problems, it's not the problem of the ESP.
Right.
I think sometimes if we have growth pains, it's not necessarily because of the ESP.
Absolutely.
But I think you have to be very wide-eyed and honest with yourself to say, okay, what column does this go in? Is it my problem or their problem? And there are a lot of things that people had to do that they never envisioned doing. But that should also point them to, does that mean I have grown beyond my current platform just because of who I am or who the company is?
Yeah, I think on that note, with Deliverability or any other email engagement metric, I think the brand should co-own it with the ESP if they're using an ESP.
Yeah.
It can't just be up to the ESP to sort out your inboxing. You can just say, oh, I'm just going to send a batch and blast campaign of 5 million, and I just want it to inbox. It just doesn't work that way. I think it should be email strategy along with proper deliverability consulting, and both should be owning this thing.
I agree.
I'll give a good analogy just to follow up on what you said. If you're an email marketer and you had problems this year, another way to think about it is, did you buy a Maserati and you've been driving it like a Yugo? And a Yugo, for those kids at home, was an old Yugoslavian car, very inexpensive. Yeah, I don't want to badmouth any existing car makers. So did you buy a Maserati, and again, you're driving it like a Yugo, and now you got to learn how to drive it like a Maserati, in which case you bring in a guy, I'll be self-serving for you. If you need to get, how do I go from Yugo to Maserati, you need to get a guy like a Ryan in to help you do that. And honestly, that's what you need to do. On the other hand, maybe you bought a Yugo, and in that case, you do need to look around because you've outgrown the Yugo. And so, again, this is a self-assessment. That email marketers need to do, and based on that, they're either going to bring a Ryan in or they're going to look around. But these things can't wait till later. People like to focus oftentimes just on their day-to-day, but these things, if you push these decisions off, they're gonna be painful for years to come.
Yeah, and I agreed with what Tejas said. Is and everybody really, if you have deliverability problems, if you have issues, if you're a marketer and you're having pains, your ESP should be the first group you're calling, right? If I tell this to people all the time. If you don't have the budget to do sophistication, call your ESP. They've had to sell it before. They can help make the proposal to your boss or your boss's boss or whatever, right? They have that experience. Consultants have experience. Everybody does. You have to, just because it may cost something doesn't mean somebody wouldn't sit down with you for 20 or 30 or 40 minutes and give you advice about which way to go. I know the guys at Netcore do that all the time, and I do that all the time. And Chris, you do too. We get calls continuously of people wanting to bend our ears and ask our advice, and I don't send them a bill at the end of it. I just, it's part of being. It's the responsibility of being a thought leader and a leading provider in this space, and so I think that if you're watching this and you've had some pain points, you better be asking for help because it's out there. It really is,
Yeah. Great point, Ryan. Especially about we're here to help, and the meter doesn't flip the minute somebody asks us a question.
I'm not an attorney.
Yeah. I wouldn't like you if you were.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys. Anything else you want to know from us? You can ask us anything.
Yeah, we're here all day.
Gene's gone. We can do whatever.
I think we can talk about email the whole day.
We could. We could. I did see Matthew Dunn. Matthew Dunn wanted to chip in $100 for Chris and I to have a cage match, which that'd be fun.
Two email marketers go in, one comes out.
Yeah, I did that once with Della.
Unfortunately, you both came out. No,
I know. Oh. All right, Tejas, what do you got?
Oh, here's Andrew.
Here's Andrew to tell us.
Get off the stage.
Here's the cane. The cane coming in.
Dip in and say hi. So I think a few delegates have wandered off and got
Is Andrew there?
into the networking. So we haven't had networking on all day, and it was suddenly let loose. So I think a bunch of people are probably clicked on the now networking button on the left-hand side. So
if I had to put in a question, that will generally be to Ryan because
you guys are
we have had discussions around AI and ML technologies and their uses for email programs, and you have always said that you actually want to know how a technology works rather than just using it like that. So I just wanted to know your opinion on that. When do you think that you will be able to talk to a marketer, and how will you be able to convince them to use an AI ML technology?
I caught so you and Andrew were over the top of each other, so I missed the first part of that because I think Andrew was
I'll repeat that.
Yeah,
I'll repeat that. I was just saying that in our discussions, you've always said that with AI ML technologies, you're a bit of a skeptic with those because you want to actually know how those technologies work. So do you think that the data from this report actually presents a considerable amount of confidence? Does it give that confidence to the marketer to try out those technologies?
I think
delivery or segmentation.
Yeah, I think it adds to the cacophony of conversation that we've had in the industry for the last 3-4 years, right? It's just another point that says, yes, this practice has efficacy. I think joining it to ROI data or saying, the level of degree that you've gone into, yeah, it does help. But I think that with anything, especially AI and machine learning, I think, it's only as smart as the smart person putting the stuff in. So it's the garbage in, garbage out analogy, right? And so, yes, it has efficacy. Yeah, I think the report does that too. But people got to be smart enough for that because it's a big lift, right? It can be a big lift because you got to really think about the inputs and what the weights are and all that stuff. So
you have to do it really smartly. Yeah,
you do. You can't just you just can't half bake it. You really can't.
Chris, what about you? Still a skeptic? You're trying to convert.
I mean, I gave this analogy on the meeting that I was referencing on the OI, and my concern about over reliance on AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, is if you think about offers in terms of arrows, and you're shooting at a target, which is your customer. I think AI alone can get a whole lot of arrows near the bullseye, but doesn't necessarily get one right in there. Whereas I think, if I'm a just a marketer trying to maybe pitch you something you don't even know you need yet, and that AI would never figure out. If I shoot 10 arrows and one hits the bullseye, which scenario do you want? One bullseye, 9 arrows missing the target completely, or 10 arrows hitting around the bullseye? So, my only concern about AI is that sometimes the real genius moves are not going to come from that. If you think back, and this goes way back, AI would never have come up with the Sony Walkman. That was introduced at a time where huge, big boom boxes were the rage. AI would have said, here's a better boom box. AI wouldn't have said, maybe people would like a tiny thing that's personal with headphones instead. A human figured that out, and it made Sony a boatload of money. So, that's just one analogy. And again, think about Netflix and Blockbuster. There's no reason Blockbuster couldn't have become Netflix, but AI would not necessarily have said, stream, stop selling, actual, hard content, stream. AI would have said, here's a better selection of movies to offer. Right.
I think it's the matchmaker program that they use the AI for. And I think it's about 75% of the users actually end up watching the recommended shows.
So again. So my skepticism is it shouldn't be a crutch. I mean,
it's not the end all be all.
Exactly. Good there's a place for it. Absolutely. Your numbers prove it. It can get you incremental improvement, but the grand slam is going to come from the smart marketer or product developer who's going to, there's 3 ways. I can sell you something you've told me you want. I can sell you something that you actually, I'm going to get this wrong. Take that back. My only point is the real trick in marketing is selling something to somebody that they don't yet know they want.
Yeah.
That's a whole new competitive space.
Yeah. And I will tell you, if you're doing batch and blast and you think your goal for 2021 is going to be AI or ML, you're nuts. Yeah. It is and I've used this term for years, it is incremental innovation over time. And you can't go from batch and blast to AI next year. You have to, there are varying degrees of sophistication and understanding the data and understanding the consumer that you have to go through before you even look at a vendor. And so it is a progression of sophistication that has history, right? And I think that you have to seriously look at your program strategy and your roadmap to say, how am I going to get there? Because it just doesn't happen by calling the people at NetCore and going, hey, flip the switch. You won't.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that you stated before.
Yeah.
That you want to know how the technology actually works. Explain it to me, and then probably I'll use it.
Yeah.
I'll give you another brief example of AI gone awry, where AI isn't infallible. And it happens on Amazon all the time. And Stephanie Stuckey, who's CEO of Stuckey's, a re-emergent American restaurant, had posted on LinkedIn yesterday that on not on Netflix, on Amazon, it was people who bought her pecan rolls also bought Right Guard deodorant. And
yes.
One of their people who bought this, and I mean, that may be true, and the artificial intelligence is doing its job, saying, well, a lot of people who bought it did buy this, but the intention of it is not to have somebody who just bought a pecan roll go, oh, I need deodorant too, but to get something that's actually related to a pecan roll to add to their order. And so again, another example where if we just set it and forget it with AI, the robots are going to get it wrong sometimes. And to Ryan's point, they need a lot of nurturing from the humans even to become effective over a transitory period of time.
I agree.
Right.
Just jumping in real quick. I'm not sure if you guys are monitoring the main chat, the main stage chat in the room. Farouk and Benjamin had a couple of questions. Have you guys seen it? Give me a thumbs up if you have. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but somebody grab them and read them.
I turned it off.
I had to turn it off.
Yeah. So you've got Gary asking, how do you filter out false positives when targeting click data? You've got Benjamin asking, can AI not create disruption, but and only dramatically improve things, or is there some disruption that's possible as well? And Farouk was saying that he thinks it should be human plus AI rather than just pure AI alone. And can AI allow us to focus on more creativity and revenue generating work rather than doing all the heavy lifting of the data and repetitive daily tasks in your email work? So that's some of the stuff that's coming in live at the moment.
I'll take the last one.
Pies make you smell.
Pies make me smell? Okay.
Pecan pies. No, that's the pecan rolls. The pecan rolls. They're delicious, by the way.
You know what? I wouldn't mind a pecan roll.
Yeah.
I'll take the last one first. I think AI and ML requires human intervention. I don't think we're at the point where Watson is running our email program, even though Watson, IBM wanted us to think that Watson was going to run it, right? I think that it still requires you to essentially build an algorithm that says, here's what intent means, here's what this means, here's the interpretation of this and that and the weights. And there is a lot of intervention, and that intervention starts with defining the parameters, but also in the checking of the suggestions or the recommendations or the output, right? To validate that it's right. You don't just load stuff in and hit the send button and it goes out to 30 million people. It goes out to a focus group and you look at that and you look, and then you open it up larger and you open it up larger because intent changes so quick. So human always has to be invested and involved in the AI and ML process. It is just once you've built the algorithm, which has been done for a long time, then it can run on its own and predict things, but you still have to check in. I mean, it's not a Star Trek computer do this.
Right.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris.
I would agree with what Farouk's premise was that Ryan just agreed with as well. So I think that's exactly right. Again, I don't want to be seen as anti-AI or a Luddite, but the proper use of AI, and I think we've reached a small consensus at least here as what that is. There was another question about false positives and open rates, and I'm not sure. Actually what the entire question was because Andrew went away. But, there are a lot of, open rates in general are suspect because a lot of opens don't get recorded. So whether it's a false positive or a not recorded open because it's opened on a device that doesn't open images,
right.
These are all why people, go on about open rate is not a good measure of engagement. Again, I would go back and just say, if your open rate going up shows your revenue going up for you, it is a good measure of of success. Yeah. So again, it depends.
I wrote an article. Quit focusing on the friggin' open rate. Jiminy Christmas. We get reward. Our metric is conversion. Our metric is click. Our metric is sending qualified traffic to the website. And I'm not whoever asked the question, I'm not insulting them at all. It's more of a, if I hear one more question about open rates, I'm going to lose my mind. We all know that it's inaccurate. We all know that there's image blocking. We all know that there's different things that affect that, and really it gets back to the obsession of some marketers to focus on a subject line. It's like, I'm going to focus on 40 characters in an inbox, but I'm not going to think that much about the message itself.
Right.
I think we need balance in what we're kind of focusing on in terms of our strategy, and our strategy should be, here's my honest assessment. Our strategy should be what helps people click and what gives information that they want to see. And as an email marketer, if you can't come up with a 40-character subject line, you really need some help, because we're marketers. We can come up with the subject line.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of harsh, but I don't mean to be harsh. And people are out there going, "Oh my God, he's so rude." Well, I'm not. I'm actually a nice guy.
Well, but and again, we told you Ryan and I could go on forever, guys. We warned you. I also think if we treated billboards the way we treat email, there wouldn't be any billboards. And by that I mean, if every billboard had a 1-800 number on it, and nobody ever called that 1-800 number, if we treated billboards like email, we'd say, well, billboards don't work, take them down. But the point is, billboard is intended to be a brand impression. That's it. For the most part, brand, think about the brand. Now it's in my head again. A good subject line that conveys a brand impression for an email that doesn't get opened, I would state still has value, which is why I go nuts over saying that using non-opened emails as a proxy for non-engaged audience. That's nonsense. There are many times I've seen an email, noted it, and not opened the email, but done what they want, and there's been a transaction as a result of that. The easiest example I can give, and then I'll shut up, is back when Joseph A. Banks, before they got bought by Gentleman's Warehouse, and we're an independent brand. An email would show up Friday and say, this weekend only, buy one suit, get 3 free. Being the cheapskate I am, that was extremely attractive. And I had a whole house of boys to suit up. So I didn't need to, there was nothing that opening that email was going to tell me further. So I would not open the email, but I would go make a big purchase the next day. And again, so the email served its purpose, whether it was opened or not.
Yeah. And I know we got to wrap up, but I just wanted to thank Bala and Tejas for the report. It was a great report. It actually
outstanding.
Had some nuggets. Even the stuff in there, I mean, everything in there was something you ought to take a look at. Look how it affects you, or informs your opinion, and gives you some great ideas for testing in 2021. So thank you guys for publishing the report and for inviting us to do this.
Yes.
Chris and I loved
Thanks so much.
Can you get
that up? Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thanks,
Really
Chris.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Bala.
Enjoy the rest of the show, people.
Thank you.
Yes,
Really appreciate
there's a lot
guys.
there. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Chris, Ryan. Can I be heard
Loved it.
or not?
I'm just waiting to drop
No, I
off
can
any
hear
minute. Like I'm falling.
You can hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
you, Andrew.
Okay, cool. So yeah, there's a little bit of a break for those still watching before the next session, which is who is it? Keith. The keynote from Fresh Address, followed by another great panel actually. So yeah, you are vaping still, Ryan. I thought you'd given it up.
No.
So yeah, and I'm gonna go and suck on an old-fashioned cigarette. So I'm probably best not to do that.
See, I miss smoking.
So, yeah, I
miss
can do with the break. Yeah, I'm still old school. And
I like that.
thank you so much. And I would add, I don't know why more ESPs don't do that, because they're all sitting on all of this data. I remember when I was at Campaign Monitor, I didn't do very much. I mean, nothing as massive as their report, but anything that I did have that I thought was useful to marketers, I would try and share. And I don't know why ESPs don't do that. They've got the data, they can share it it's just a little bit of time and effort. It's so valuable to everyone. So I really appreciate the fact that Netcore did it. And really lots more follow suit. And thank you guys for your time. I know you spoke way longer than you should have.
We love it, Andrew. It was a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunities you give me to, pontificate. So thank you. It's always a pleasure working with you.
Yep. And anytime we can help you out, want to see you guys be successful at this gig. So with 100 people watching us blather on, shoot.
I mean, that's an astonishing number. That's great. Compared to what I normally see in these types of things of 25, 30 people being a lot, that's great, Andrew.
Yeah. We've got 400 that actually went all the way through and registered on Hopin, and I think 350 that have logged in. We're a bit disappointed because there's about 800 that pre-registered. I suppose that's the thing with giving away the tickets for free. People will register.
Yeah, but if you think about webinars, though, webinars usually see about a 20% rate of attendance out of registration. So you're at 50%.
Yeah, 50, 60.
Yeah. So I think you're doing pretty good, brother.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, thanks for the vote of confidence. All right, then have yourself your refreshment break.
And we'll see you back at other sessions.
Take care.
All right, brother.
And OI is waiting for you guys.
Oh, excellent.
I'm not good. I'm talked out. I gotta